Hi, my name is Carlene Huxley, and I'm a librarian that works here at JCC. For the next few minutes, I'm going to be talking to you about how to locate peer-reviewed articles using our online library databases. For this particular course, you're going to be writing a research paper that requires that you use at least two peer-reviewed articles. So I'll be explaining how to locate them, but also how they just generally differ from other resources that are out there. So there are lots of different types of articles. The ones that we are probably most familiar with are the popular magazine articles. The content and the articles that are written in these are usually just written by journalists, and the topics range from just any topic that is of interest to our general public. They can be very useful when you're examining pop culture themes or any current events, but we do not generally consider them to be scholarly in nature. A step above this would be the trade magazine. So although these still look very similar to a regular magazine, popular like a popular magazine, the content is very different. It's more geared towards those who are working in that particular profession. The content will also be considered slightly more scholarly because a lot of times the authors are actually summarizing some of the research that has been done in that field. The people who are actually writing the articles are also normally people who are credentialed in that particular field as well. But we do not consider these to be part of the scholarly peer-reviewed group of articles. So what you guys are going to be looking for is articles that are published in academic journals. We actually go back and forth in the terms. Sometimes we just call them scholarly journals, others will call them academic journals. But essentially in physical format and print format, they look a lot different from any other magazine out there. Because they're very simple. Sometimes they can be just as thick as any book. They don't have any glossy pictures like any of the magazines. In fact, when you open them up, you'll notice that most of the articles in them are very lengthy, and it's just pretty much all typed word with some tables and data and stuff that's been included. So it's not flashy at all. So they're normally very easy to identify off the shelf, when you're physically looking for them, but they can be a little harder to identify when you're trying to find them through our online databases. So there are a couple of different characteristics that you can look for in an article like this. The first thing that you want to look for is the credentials of the authors. A peer-reviewed journal article normally will be focusing on some sort of theoretical analysis for that discipline, but a lot of times it also tends to focus on some sort of original research that was done by some, in this case, sociologist or criminologist in that particular field. Now, when experts do these research projects, when they're done with the research, they have to compile it. And in order to get it published, they have to send it to an academic journal who then sends it to other experts in their fields who read through the article and ensure that the content is good, that they did the research well, that the data is accurate, they've calculated everything well, that there's no bias involved or anything like that. A lot of times all of this does depend on the actual discipline that the article is written in. But generally, that's what the peer reviewer is looking for. And once they have approved it, they send it back to the academic journal and then they publish it. We actually sometimes will call them not just peer reviewed, but other people will actually refer to them as refereed or in some cases juried. So in order to get it published in that academic journal, they also require them to format the article in a specific way. They have to lay out and present the information in a very specific way. So part of that is providing the reader with an abstract, and the abstract basically summarizes the content of the article. This can be extremely useful also to the student because you can read through the abstract in order to identify whether or not the content of the article is focusing on your topic. It is really important, though, that you do not cite from an abstract. The abstract is just there as a tool for you as a summary. So when you're actually using the peer-reviewed article, it is very important to read the entire peer-reviewed article, and when you cite from it, use citations from the whole article instead. So the other parts of the characteristics of the article to look for, first of all, there's usually an introduction, and again, this depends on the discipline, but normally what they have to do in the introduction is refer back to the other research that's been done in the past. So you will often notice within that introduction, they are citing a whole bunch of other people. Okay, so look for that. Then after the introduction is when they can actually start to present how they did their research and what the results of that research was. And they have to present that data as raw data. So it's usually in the form of a table of some sort, just again, depending on what the research is. But this is a very, very important, especially for the peer review process, because those reviewers want to ensure that whatever data was collected correctly. Then the authors will discuss those results. And normally, right after that, they'll have some sort of small conclusion. And in the conclusion, they will often actually address the other peers in their field, saying something like, so this is what we have discovered, and we believe the next steps and the next research that we should probably do is so and so and so and so. So it just again depends on the discipline, but the whole point of a peer-reviewed article and the research behind it is to try to help improve things in that discipline, finding new ways to treat people, new ways to do things. So it's basically like having a very scholarly discussion with other people in your field. Then finally, they also have to list their references, just like you do in your paper. And you will also probably notice that they will have a lot of references. And those references will normally also be scholarly peer-reviewed journal articles too. So our next step will be to actually go to the library databases and to do an actual search. There's sort of 3 steps to this process. The first one is simply choosing a database. The second is choosing keywords and searching with those keywords. And then finally, using the filters or the other tools in the database to actually locate the type of source that you're looking for, in this case, a peer-reviewed article.